Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ms. McGuire video lecture. And today we're covering the cardiovascular system, blood vessels and circulation, part 2. And I'm using OpenStack's Anatomy and Physiology textbook. So I already covered the first part, right? So we're gonna just pretty much pick up where we left. Oops, I'm sorry. Okay, so we in this part of video lecture, in this video lecture, we will cover major arteries and veins of your body. Okay, so actually we are looking at this guy from the right. So that's his right side of the body. And we have aortic arch over here. And you know that we have 3 branches from aortic arch. So this is the branch that is on the right, and it's called brachiocephalic trunk. Then brachiocephalic trunks bifurcates into subclavian artery and right common carotid artery. So right common carotid artery carries blood towards your brain and your head. So it supplies your brain, obviously, the muscles, the skin of your head, of your face, your tongue, your thyroid gland, right? And then common carotid artery will split into internal carotid and external carotid arteries here. There is another artery that carries blood to the brain, and it's a vertebral artery. And it's the branch right here, and it will go through transverse foramina of the cerebral vertebrae, and it also brings blood to your brain. Now here you can see vertebral arteries, right, coming from that subclavian artery over here. And here's our internal carotid artery, right there and right here. I don't know if you see or not. And vertebral artery forms this basilar artery. Now this is okay, so this is inferior part, inferior part of the brain. So you can see basilar artery and internal carotid artery. They form a connection, anastomosis, and it's called circus of Willis. Then they branch to posterior cerebral arteries, middle cerebral arteries, and anterior cerebral arteries. Now we have way more arteries here, but in this video and in our course, we wanna remember just the major blood vessels. So over here, we can see aortic arch, ascending aorta, aortic arch, descending aorta that became, thoracic and abdominal aorta. And here's our 3 branches: left subclavian, left common carotid, brachiocephalic, and right common carotid, and right subclavian. And then right subclavian brings blood to your arm, forearm, to your hand, to your digits. And it's the blood vessels that will split into smaller vessels, and it will change names, right? So when it's go under the clavicle, it's called subclavian. When it reaches axillary region, it's called axillary. Then brachial, in the brachial region, and somewhere in antecubital region over here, it will bifurcate into radial artery on the radial side, that's your radial bone, and ulnar artery. And then they will form those arches, deep palmar arch and superficial palmar arch. And we will have digital artery branching from those arches. Also, you can see internal thoracic artery here, and those are intercostal arteries. Well, so the aorta moving down, and this structure here is the diaphragm. And when it pinches through this aortic hiatus, right, so that it became abdominal aorta. So that's abdominal aorta. And by the way, this blood vessel shown in blue, this is inferior vena cava. But one of the branches, it's not paired branch over here. I would say it right there, right? This is called celiac trunk. And celiac trunk, means a short blood vessel. It will branch into 3 arteries: common hepatic, left gastric, and splenic. So you can see the splenic gonna bring blood to the spleen. Common hepatic then will branch into right gastric and hepatic artery proper, and that brings blood to the liver. And left gastric gonna supply stomach. So here again we see the diaphragm. We see branches that are superior to celiac trunk. So that's our celiac trunk. The branches superior to it are inferior phrenic arteries, and they will bring blood to the diaphragm. Then we have several arteries coming over here, right? So that's our abdominal aorta, and this is superior mesenteric artery, inferior mesenteric artery, renal artery, your abdominal aorta then bifurcates into common iliac arteries, right and left common iliac arteries. We have also those arteries are called gonadal arteries, and those suprarenal arteries bring blood to adrenal gland. And now we are down to the thigh and the leg. So you can see we have this common iliac artery, and its branches into internal and external iliac. Internal iliac artery exits a body cavity through inguinal canal and moves down the thigh and become femoral artery. Then it kind of moves to a posterior side through this opening that is called adductor hiatus, and it's moved now on a posterior side of the knee in the popliteal region. So you can see over here, right? That's our femoral artery. When it moves through this adductor hiatus, it became popliteal artery, and then it divides into anterior fibular artery and posterior fibular artery. I'm sorry, let me say fibula. Anterior tibial artery and posterior tibial artery, because this bone over here is a tibia bone, and a fibula artery. Now this posterior tibial artery gonna form a medial plantar artery and lateral plantar artery, and then plantar arch. Right, so here you can also see, you see kind of like posterior tibial artery, and here's the anterior tibial artery that became arcuate arteries, and then dorsal metatarsal arteries, because this is our metatarsal region, and arteries are called metatarsal arteries, and we also have metatarsal bones over there. So over here you have like a summary of this blood flow from thoracic aorta to abdominal, right? And it's actually, it shows here split into 2 common iliac arteries, but it's also has this artery, median sacral artery. But here's our ones that we covered over here. Here's the celiac trunk, left gastric, splenic, common hepatic, inferior phrenic artery, adrenal arteries, or suprarenal, renal arteries, gonadal arteries. It has several branches of lumbar arteries, and we have superior, inferior mesenteric arteries. And so on this side, they show you blood vessels that are singular, they don't have pairs. And on this side, you see arteries that we have two of them. So they branch to the right and left. And this shows us, this blood flow to the, let's see. Okay, so that's from a right common iliac. We have right external iliac, and a right external iliac brings blood to your low limb, to your thigh and your leg, and right internal iliac will have branches like superior gluteal, obturator, internal pudendal, lateral sacral, and this will bring muscle to the pelvic muscles, skin and viscera of pelvis, perineum, gluteal region, medial thigh. Obturator will bring blood to the hip and thigh muscles, hip joint, femoral head, superior gluteal to the hip muscles and hip joint, internal pudendal, bring blood to the rectum, anus, perineal muscle, external genitalia, lateral rotators of hip, and lateral sacral, skin and muscle of sacrum, right? So, yeah, that's abdominal aorta, has two branches, right and left, common iliac, and each of them will branch into these blood vessels. And now we back to the heart. So we're gonna collect blood from the capillary beds, and we're gonna deliver it back to the heart and then to the lungs for gas exchange. So we're gonna start with dorsal metatarsal veins, dorsal venous arch, and then we're moving up. It will be anterior tibial vein. On the posterior side, you can see that's our anterior tibial vein. And we have a posterior tibial vein over here, right? So anterior, posterior tibial vein and fibula vein. And from the plantar part of your foot, we have digital veins, we have plantar veins, and they come together to form popliteal vein in the popliteal region. And then popliteal vein became femoral vein, femoral external iliac, and we have internal iliac over here that together will form common iliac vein. Now you see, I put some names over here in the blue color and some in the green color. And green color, I wanted it to represent veins. They do not have arteries with corresponding names. For example, you have anterior tibial vein and anterior tibial artery. That's why I color it blue. But we have small saphenous vein and we do not have saphenous artery. Those arteries are mostly, those veins. So we have small saphenous vein and we don't have small saphenous artery. So those veins in green, they mostly superficial. So you see this large vein over here is a great saphenous vein. And then we have small saphenous vein. Right, so here on the lateral side, on the medial side is great saphenous. And then we have on the posterior side, we have small saphenous vein that is also superficial. Okay, so here we have our external iliac vein, internal iliac vein, forming common iliac vein, and then we are inferior vena cava. And in inferior vena cava, we will collect blood from kidneys through renal veins, suprarenal or adrenal veins over here. Right, so we continue in inferior vena cava, then it will be hepatic vein, bringing blood from the liver, and inferior vena cava now moves from abdominal to thoracic cavity. And it's this is how we collect blood from the head, right? And so we have superficial temporal vein, facial vein, And those veins come together to form internal jugular. And internal jugular also bring blood from your brain, and it will be external jugular vein, and both come to this brachiocephalic vein. I would say like brachiocephalic become internal jugular, I'm sorry, subclavian and internal jugular becomes brachiocephalic, and then brachiocephalic brings blood to superior vena cava, but we also have internal jugular and vertebral vein. So blood coming back from the head region, brain, and neck, back to the heart. And of course, here's how we collect blood from the brain. In the brain, we have blood vessels that we call sinuses. Sinus just means a flat vein. So we have superior sagittal sinus, inferior sagittal sinus, transverse sinuses, cavernous sinus, sigmoid sinus, and they all drain blood into internal jugular vein. And then you can see this is internal jugular vein, drain blood into brachiocephalic vein, and then into superior vena cava. Now, if we're coming back from your hand, we have digital veins, superficial venous, palmar arch. We have radial. That's actually shown here, like in a little bit the lighter blue color, right there. I don't know what color, it's red. So that's a radial vein. This is ulnar vein, and they drain blood to the brachial vein, right? And brachial vein became axillary vein, right? And then brachiocephalic trunk and superior vena cava. But lots of veins of your upper limb are superficial, and this one on the lateral side is called cephalic, and this one on the medial side is basilic. So again, they are in green color, so they're superficial and they don't have arteries with corresponding veins. And this vein that connects cephalic and basilic is called median cubital vein, and this one median antebrachial vein. So it's in the middle of antebrachial region, so it's median antebrachial vein, medial cubital vein, and that's why this area we call antecubital, because it's just before this cubital vein. You can also see we have inferior vena cava over here, and another vein that is a zygous vein, and a zygous vein brings blood to the superior vena cava. And intercostal veins. This is blood coming from your GI tract to your liver, right? So we have splenic vein, gastric veins, inferior and superior mesenteric veins, and they drain blood into what we call hepatic portal vein. So after you absorb most of your nutrients into these capillaries, then they unite to form those venules and veins. The first organ, this blood rich in nutrients, the first organ that it goes to will be liver for processing. And then it's called portal system because it will branch out into capillaries again, and those capillaries will unite to form hepatic veins. So if you look over here, so what happened here, we picked up all this blood rich in nutrients, right, through hepatic portal vein. We deliver it to liver processing it, and then from liver, you will have these hepatic veins that deliver blood to inferior vena cava. So here would be a liver. So that's hepatic. Now, on this slide, It shows how hepatic portal system works a little bit, right? So we have hepatic portal vein, right? So hepatic portal vein brings blood to the liver, right? From the stomach and small intestine. So first, obviously, we want to deliver arterial blood to stomach and intestine, and large intestine, by the way, too. Nutrients and toxins are absorbed. Then through hepatic portal vein, they deliver to liver. Liver cells, hepatocytes, gonna process those nutrients. And then the blood leaves liver through hepatic vein. So we have hepatic portal vein and hepatic vein to the inferior vena cava. Right, and this is the diagram of blood flow. So we that has a lot of stuff. So, but we can start here with the right atrium. Right, I think that's our end point. So we get to a right atrium, and from right atrium to right ventricle, and then to the lungs. But you can see here's our superior vena cava, brachiocephalic artery, so trunk, and then we have internal, external jugular, vertebral, and remember the same gonna be on the left side, and then we have right subclavian, right upper limb veins. It's too many of them to put them here on this diagram. And we have left brachiocephalic, left subclavian, left axillary, left brachial. Also, that shows us the, now division over here, radial, ulnar, digital, and basilic and cephalic that connected through medial cubital and median antebrachial. And over here we have a zygous vein, right, that goes to superior vena cava. Oh, so that's a lot of blood flow, and this shows us the blood flow from the right low limb, left low limb, and from the pelvic muscle, skin, viscera of pelvis, perineum, gluteal region. So that's back to common iliac, and then to inferior vena cava, and we pick up renal veins, adrenal veins, lumbar veins, gonadal, phrenic, hepatic, and to the right atrium. And this is from foot and toes, right? So lateral and medial plantar, dorsal arches, plantar arch, anterior tibial, posterior tibial, fibula, popliteal, and that's our femoral that picks up from our two saphenous, great saphenous, small saphenous, deep femoral to external iliac, and then external iliac, and internal iliac form common iliac vein, and then to inferior vena cava. Right, and this was the last slide. Yeah, it's a lot to study about blood vessels. We really cover only major ones, right? So I hope you guys can memorize most of them, and thank you for watching. I hope it was helpful.